Hello and welcome to some patch note highlights here. I'll try and make sure that everything is as concise as possible here. I'll be going over and highlighting for you every aspect of this patch that should really be looked at, the biggest things you should take away from it, and important things to note. And also we're just going to try and make it a little bit more concise because the patch notes themselves are actually extremely huge. But if you want to go into them in full detail, I'll make sure that a link is going to be down in the description. But let's go ahead and hop on into it first and foremost. So the first thing that you're going to need to know is that this patch will be live on the technical test servers tomorrow, Tuesday, which is going to be August 29th. If you're watching it in the future, do note that it will be live on the main servers September 5th. September 5th is when it will be live on the main servers for everyone. But if you want to get an extra jump on it, hop on the technical test servers and get a look at the new operators and the new map. So, as we all know, this operation will consist of Ying and Legion for the Hong Kong attacker and defenders. We will also have Ella being released as well, in addition to the theme park map getting released onto the casual playlist. Next up, what we're going to be really needing to look at is that the Operation Health program, it's finally done. It's over. So what we're going to be moving on to is everything that they are going to be introducing with the end of Operation Health and the beginning of Season 3, which is going to be new server deployments, and that's going to be huge. They have made massive gains in regards to just general stability and a lot less BS interactions in regards to how things are going to be played out. Expect a lot less rubber banding, expect a lot better hit reg, and, you know, fingers crossed those things actually end up going through. And the next most important thing is going to be the improved lighting. Now, one of the biggest complaints since the launch of Siege has been how horrific the lighting has been. Everyone remembers the jokes about looking outside and the sun is literally there in your face. So hopefully this change will make that a lot easier for many more people. Now, next up after that, and an important note, is that both the Sky model and the BDRF, which is the shading model, are getting updated. Now, the Sky model, not a huge thing, mostly just a aesthetic change. They are bringing over the procedurally generated skies from the Assassin's Creed series and using them for two static day modes, either, you know, noontime or nighttime. Great looking skies overall. A bit of an aesthetic change, not too huge. The shading change, however, is going to just generally improve the look of textures and other miscellaneous things. Things like reflections, obviously. The bidirectional reflectance distribution function, you know, is reflections entirely. So a small change, you know, again, aesthetic. Now, a more important one is going to be this data cleanup on the texture and meshes, which they will eventually be applying to all maps, but are currently just applying them to Cafe, and will be going through over the course of the next year, slowly doing it to each and every map. Now, what that means is that they are going to be reducing the unique textures on things and making it for more consistency, so things look a little bit more the same, and it also means that it's going to reduce the overall data requirements for each map. Because again, that's going to be something we're going to be coming back to time and time again, is data requirements, because they are slowly reaching the limit of how big of a game they can have at once. So, a little bit further down there, we are going to be also optimizing operators for the same aforementioned reasons right here. Everyone should have the same performance impact across the board, whereas before operators would have a little bit of variability between themselves and their miscellaneous, you know, operator uniforms, elite uniforms, so on and so forth. Face rigging means that operators look like humans now, no more Mongoloid Valkyrie. Definitely a big plus. Next up is going to be that Hibana's gadget is going to be far more consistent than it has ever been before. They are fairly confident in that they have resolved most of the Hibana hiccups that they've had in the past. So fingers crossed that'll make a little bit less rehosts for the competitive side of things, and that for just the casual players out there, that your Hibana will work as it should work. After that, we have the patch size, 46 gigabytes for PC if you're using those Ultra HD texture packs, 26 if you're using it without, and then 15 gigabytes for both consoles. The next thing to highlight is that hit registration and high ping are going to be looked at heavily in Season 3. That's going to be one of the giant priorities being made. And as we all know, hit registration, especially in this past patch of Operation Health, has relatively been somewhat abysmal, to be frank. We've had more trade kills than ever before, and they are going to be making large strides in improving this through a myriad of different systems. And, you know, fingers crossed they actually make it work. So, I mean, everything, you know, is always with a grain of salt when going over these promises, but they seem to be fairly confident, and from what I've heard in testing, these things are actually functioning as they should. So hopefully we'll be making more strides into having a game that works as it should. Next up, and this is where we're going to be shifting into really just giant meta changes. Before everything else, looking over at the health program and everything like that, that was mostly just for, you know, health of the game, general improvements. Does the game look better? This section entirely here is going to be all about meta changes. And boy, oh boy, are there going to be meta changes. First and foremost, smokes have a huge difference now. Previously, smokes were wispy and frankly just kind of crappy. You would have to throw 3 smokes in one area to even have a chance at not being spotted through it. Otherwise, what's the point? But now, smokes are actually so effective that they have reduced the overall smokes from 3 to 2 for each operator, which I get. There's going to be some people out there that are just going to cop that as a change, and they're going to be like, oh, well, I don't know. I mean, are they actually better? Is this just some sort of excuse to nerf smokes? No. Smokes are significantly more effective here. I'll have a clip here in just a second to show you how they look, but seriously, smokes, they're monumentally different. They are extremely effective. We might actually see a return of Glaz, unfortunately. And in fact, with some of the other changes that we're going to discuss a little bit further on, I'm actually fairly confident Glaz will see a return. I mean, pretty much a bad thing. I really hate Glaz, as I'm sure most of you do. But Glaz will be more effective with these new smokes. These new smokes are going to have a big change on the meta, especially how bomb sites that have previously been played with a mirror window to defend them with these smokes. You're not going to be able to see through that anymore. It's going to be much more difficult to defend those areas, at least in the same way that you have been previously. Things are going to have to change a little bit for the defense. And moving on to that is that ACOGs are going to be removed now. Yes, as I said weeks ago, the ACOG thing is real. I don't know why people don't believe me. I don't get that. ACOGs are getting removed from 2 and 3 speed defenders, at least in the future. Currently, it's just going to be Jaeger and Bandit. But in the future, no defenders that are 2 speed or 3 speed will have an ACOG, because it is their belief that if you are a speedy operator, you should be using your speed to make plays, not holding a pixel peek from far away. And that's just going to be, I mean, it's a minor change. I don't really think it's going to be too huge. It's like a little bit of like an obnoxious change, if anything. I don't really think it's going to do too much. I mean, the people that could hold angles from far away with an ACOG are going to be able to do the same thing with a hollow sight in most cases. But I mean, because you got to remember, this map, I mean, all the maps are relatively close in size, so hopefully it won't be too impactful. But it is important to note that they said for future defenders, only 1 speeds, the 3 armor 1 speeds, will be made with ACOGs. It's not meaning that if you are a 1 speed, you will get an ACOG, but it does mean that those are the only ones that will have the potential to get an ACOG. Now, next up is something a little bit of consistency. It's not going to impact the meta too much, in my opinion, but they have made drop-off distances much more consistent for things. Currently, their drop-off distances, even between rifles, is different, and they even noted this at whereas the Buck C8 drops off at 18 meters, the Capitaus Para doesn't start dropping off until 28 meters, and that's a little bit of an obnoxious difference. But now they've actually made that much more consistent. DMRs and LMGs are going to start dropping off at 25 meters and end at 40 meters, where they will do their minimum damage. ARs will start at 25, end at 35. SMGs will start at 18, end at 28. Machine pistols, SMG 11 and Bearing 9, will start their drop-off distance at 18 meters and end at 28 meters. Pistols start at 12, end at 22. Now, for context, if you don't know how long of a distance that is, if you can kind of picture the distance across, nearly all the way across of a canal from where you have the beeper entrance all the way to the model room, that's in the range of about, that should be right in the middle of the AR drop-off distance, about like 30 meters, somewhere around there. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a visualization there, for the most part, it's not really going to affect anything, at least not negatively. If anything, it just makes things more consistent for everyone overall. Now, additionally to making right changes to the guns overall, they're also adding ammo, and the ones that I want to highlight here are going to be the Mark 17, the SR25, the Type 89, the SMG 11, and the OTS 03. And that's going to be Blackbeard's guns Habana's rifle, the SMG-11, everyone knows that, and the OTS-03 is Glaz's rifle. Every single one of those is getting 2 additional magazines, and all of those guns are guns that suffered from low ammo counts previously. So this should be a little bit, I mean, it's just kind of a straight across buff. I mean, SMG-11, you're going to be able to spray more. OTS-03 means you're going to be opening up more walls with Glaz's rifle. But not really a huge deal, but definitely a slight buff to all of those attackers and defenders. Now, next up, this is going to be a quality of life change for just your casual and ranked players, but it is going to heavily shift the meta for comp players. And this is going to be the 2 drones deployed at one time, where you can throw out another drone and your previous one isn't destroyed. Yes, it makes sense. But in regards to just like a game balance type thing, with attackers being able to have 10 cameras up at once, it's going to be substantially harder for defenders to get flanks off. And with a well-coordinated team, it should be pretty much impossible to do. That should be interesting to see how that's going to affect things. I kind of expect, in general, the game to shift back to primarily being on site with maybe only 1 roamer, because with having 2 roamers and everything, it's going to be hard to make things happen with all of those cameras, all those eyes on you at once. Because I can guarantee you that in comp, teams are going to be setting up 5 cameras on one side of the map to watch flanks, and then throwing 5 more drones at the start to have their entry frags have an easier time to enter. And it's gonna be putting a lot more pressure on defenders. It should be interesting to see how that pans out, but I mean, who knows? Who knows? Now, next up, and this is again another, we're gonna skip over the canal spawn kill one. It wasn't like a huge deal. But first and foremost, this first person camera position is going to be closer aligned to third person. Now, to many of you, I'm sure you have absolutely no idea what that means, but let me tell you and explain to you why that's actually going to be a huge deal. First person camera position is essentially where you are going to be looking at, like your personal field of view, your crosshair, everything else. So I'm going to refer to that as your crosshair from now on. And the third person is essentially how your player model looks. So I'm going to refer to that as your player model. So what that means is that right now, you can be shot by someone. I'm sure many of you have experienced this, when someone leans around a corner and you get shot and you can't see them. And you're like, what the heck? Like, lag. No, it's not. I mean, I guess it is a form of lag, but it's not network lag. This was lag, as they have said here, that the player model has not matched up to where your crosshair is. It lags behind it a little bit. So when someone leans around a corner, their crosshair will pop out first so they can see, but their player model is a little bit behind them and takes a little bit time to catch up. So notably, there is a certain technique where you lean one way and quickly lean to the right to peek a hallway. And what this does, it's not exploiting net coding. It's not exploiting that. What it's exploiting is this issue right here, where the player model has always lagged behind changes made by the camera model, like the first person view. So this now should make that a lot more consistent, at least for someone looking in the other way, and will probably make the strategy nowhere near as effective as it was previously, because you'll be able to be seen. Whereas in the past, it would essentially, you were able to peek if you did it properly and be invisible the entire time, giving the attackers or defenders no chance whatsoever at actually seeing and shooting back at you. So moving on from that, this is going to be a little bit of just kind of a fun one. I mean, this is exact with his siege science finally coming through and getting into some patch notes. Next up, we need to get him to get in the patch notes on fixing the crosshairs for the ACOGs on the L85 and other such guns. But this one, minor change, again, quality of life. Decals like bullet tracers, bullet impacts, everything, they're going to be generating from your crosshair rather than the gun barrel. Because previously, as I'm sure you've seen in many kill feeds and other such things, you'll see someone just hammering at a wall. You'll see bullet decals showing up on a wall corner when you're hitting someone else and when you're peeking around the corner. So that's something to note. All of those bullet tracers and such things are going to be generating from your crosshair rather than your gun barrel. Next up is going to be that debris. They're not going to be blocked anymore. If you've ever hit a barricade on a window and had the wood still be there for you, but for an attacker or someone else, it's not there at all and you get shot through it, that's not going to be an issue anymore. It's not going to show up, which is going to be great. And then following up to that is that debris are also not going to block gadgets, which means as a Frost player, you're not going to have to destroy carpets or floors or anything to place down your Frost mats, which is awesome. Definitely a good quality of life change. Definitely a convenience thing. Gonna be great. Very happy about that. And after that is going to be some more minor changes. We went through our major meta changes just a bit ago. Now some more minor changes. Defender vision filter, kind of colloquially referred to as the piss filter. It's the yellow filter when you peek outside as a defender. That's getting removed. Great quality of life change. It never made sense to me why it was there in the first place. It seemed kind of silly the whole time. Like, why do you need your screen to be yellow and to have like a giant thing that says you're being spotted, like you're exposed? Like, that seems unnecessary. So I'm very happy with that change. Really, really, really great. After that is going to be that no longer will your AFK buddy who went to go get something to drink or eat after he died, no longer will he be holding that camera hostage, staring at a corner doing nothing. If you're alive, you can get on a camera, turn the camera where you need it. AFK operators, once you're dead, you will not have priority over camera controls. So definitely a good change for you casual and ranked players out there. Very, very happy. And then after that is this crosshairs turning red on enemies. Now, this was something you would use to, you would sweep over a location if there's places to hide behind, like a table or a desk, or maybe a wall that has bullet holes in it. If you swept across and your crosshair turned red, you knew someone was there. You didn't really have to see them, but your crosshair would turn red and it would let you know that they're there, and you could go in and then kill them. So another kind of silly mechanic that shouldn't have been there in the first place, getting removed. So yes, this player comfort section is absolutely player comfort. And then additionally, enemy IDs only happen when you scan things now. So if you just look across a room really quickly, and your enemies will not be suddenly marked as like discovered. So typically people would do that if you would like quickly sweep across a room and then an enemy would be discovered. You knew that someone was inside the room. So it's some intelligent changes that should have been done a long time ago, and I'm kind of happy to see. Now, moving on to the more volatile of things. This is going to be regarding the playlists. So I do have some stuff to talk about with this, and I would hope that you guys would listen to that at least in some calm manner. I know there's a lot of rage about that going on Reddit currently, or at least in the past week, is that the ranked playlist is now going to mimic the ESL map pool rotation, where every single new season is going to be a new map pool for ranked. Personally, I think this is a great change. It allows players to become more consistent throughout a season in regards to their skill level. New seasons are going to add remove maps, and it's going to keep things fresh while also making sure that there's not 15 maps that someone has to be good at once. So overall, people's skill level should shine through a little bit more. If you're truly a platinum player, you should rise to plat. If you're truly a gold, you should rise to gold, so on and so forth, rather than having these one-off maps that might be particularly one-sided or simply kind of out of the meta currently, and those maps might not necessarily reflect on player skill as much. I mean, obviously in an ideal world, yeah, map preferences would work, but very happy with this change overall. I think it's going to be good for ranked players and everyone just playing ranked, where everything's going to be a little bit more consistent. And additionally, I really like that and I know this is a bit controversial, but I really like that the new map isn't immediately in the ranked pool. And the reason why is because every map that's been released so far has always had some minor issue to it where people have found ways to exploit or to abuse some mechanics on the new map that immediately get patched about 1 to 2 weeks or a month later. And I'm very happy to see that it's giving people both time to learn the new map and time for, it to go through its growing pains, and for things to be found and fixed, and for players to learn the map before they suddenly get it in their ranked queue, because no one wants to lose their promotion to diamond or their promotion to whatever rank, or lose their rank because someone discovered some kind of crazy exploit on the new map and your team loses because they're abusing some way to get into the walls or see through the map and other such things. So I don't really view that as too negative of a thing. And as we all know, it's going to be Bank Club, Oregon Cafe Consulate, Chalet, Border, Coastline, and Skyscraper for the ranked pool. And for the casual playlist, it's going to be everything except for Yacht and Favela, which are being removed. And from rumors that I've heard from many different sources is that those maps are being remade kind of from the ground up. I mean, we all knew that Favela wasn't really that great of a map for defenders. Attackers had a very high win rate on it where they could blow open every single wall, and the defenders would just get shot from 30 to 40 meters away, and relied on the defenders heavily to just jump out and try to spawn kill. It wasn't really a good map to play. It relied on a lot of volatility, and I'm happy to see that it's getting reworked. I mean, I know they haven't explicitly said it, but Favela's getting reworked. It's getting done. Believe me. Trust me. No, seriously. It really should be getting fixed. But they also made a disclaimer that as the game continues to grow over the next few years, some maps will end up getting forever removed, purely because of things like install restrictions, things like the general game data caps. I don't know why people don't realize this. I do. I mean, I think people a lot of times are thinking in the short term, and that's it. And they're seeing maps getting removed, and they're thinking that like they're just going to pull 2 maps every time, but they're not. They're thinking about in the far, far future. If this game is going to be out for 2-3 more years, there's going to be many more maps and many more resources that are going to be brought into the game. And with install files already reaching like 60 gigabytes, the game is going to be growing even more so. And for a stopgap solution, yeah, they're probably going to have to remove some maps in order to keep the install file a little bit lower, because I know even myself, I've had issues where I go through and have to delete or uninstall some games, and especially some of my friends on console, they go through all the time, and I've been over at their houses when they go get a new game, and they have to decide which game they're going to uninstall because they just don't have enough room on their console. And I mean, that sucks. I mean, you can get expandable hardware, but not everyone can do that. And then you have other things such as data caps. You can't have a game be 150 gigabytes when people have data caps of 500 gigabytes for the month. So I see it very understandable to want to try and reduce the size of the game, especially given that there's going to be new things constantly added throughout the next few years. And even more so is that they have said that they are planning on where is it? I believe they have an area in here where they are talking about how they are looking for new storage methods for maps, specifically because the current storage method of maps takes up a lot of space. Yeah, right here. There he goes. Rework how our maps are going to be stored, and that's going to be something they're going to be doing much further down the future. So I really hope that people would calm down a little bit on that, purely because they need to understand that they don't have unlimited space to work with. We already have 15 total maps currently, and maps are going to be rotated out to be restored and so on and so forth. So I would definitely say calm down a little bit, especially when there are maps that are going to be removed that are just essentially just not really fair to attackers or defenders, vice versa. Moving past that is going to be back to meta changes. Barbed wire. This is going to be huge. Barbed wire is easier to walk through. It takes one less hit to break. That means that you're not going to have to take Ash, have to take Buck and Sledge, or all of these operators that have grenades or long distance ways of getting rid of barbed wire, because from what I've been told, that it doesn't really seem like much. 45% to 50%, it might not seem like much, but it's actually, it feels way different than it seems. It's actually, it's not really a priority to get rid of barbed wire right now. It's not going to be so detrimental to you, and especially with the advent of 2 more trap operators, having barbed wire the way it was just going to be not that great. So in addition to making it where barbed wire operators aren't must picks, additionally grenade operators and things like Ash are also not going to be must picks. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of more variation in regards to the operator selection in future months. Should be an interesting thing. So hopefully we'll see some great things from that. In addition, moving on to that, Jackal is going to ping more now. He pings every 5 seconds. He pings for a total of 20 seconds, and it's going to be 5 different pings. So previously it was 10 seconds, 30 pings. You'd get 1 ping right when you scanned it, and then every 10 seconds thereafter for a total of 4 pings. Now it's going to be a ping when you scan him and a ping every 5 seconds for a total of 20 seconds, making 5 total pings. So Jackal's going to be a little bit more effective than he was before, a little bit easier to shut down roamers. But I can't really see it being so huge when we're going to have 10 drones up at once anyways. I feel like that's just going to kind of circumvent that buff. I feel like that's not going to be as impactful as some may think. Now, next up is going to be Bandit can Bandit Trick. Again, he can Bandit Trick Habana pellets, which is going to be huge, because Bandit Tricking Habana pellets like the Habana pellets being untrickable was essentially the entire motivation between Bandit and roaming off site, because Bandit was really never able to do it before. I mean, they could be done, but it had to be within like a window of like 100 milliseconds of putting your Bandit charge down. And now, because Habana pellets, I think, I'm trying to remember the fuse timer on them, it's something like half a second longer than a thermite charge. It's going to be a lot easier to take out than a thermite charge will be. So I expect Habana to not really be your one pick for everything anymore. Thermite's going to be a little bit more important now if you're going to go for walls. And Habana's just going to be back to her hatches, which is kind of what her design was anyway. She was never meant to be a stopgap, like here you pick Habana and you're going to be able to use her for everything. It's going to be Habana and you can use her for hatches, because if you use her for walls, you're going to get punished. So that should be a little bit interesting. Bandit's probably not going to be off site as much anymore, especially after, for many people with the ACOG change. He's definitely going to be played on site. In my opinion, he's going to be defending those reinforcements. And additionally, it brought back the Bandit batteries one-shotting drones, which is a great effect, because right now drones could hop over them and with pretty much no charge. They take 2 hits when they hop over and they're fine. Now, if they hit at all, essentially drones are not going to be able to circumvent barbed wire anymore, assuming that it's electrified. So that's a cool change. I think roamers are going to be protected a little bit by that. You might not necessarily need mute. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how that pans out. A minor change, probably a little bit of a quality of life type thing. And after that, we're going to be having IQ. She doesn't detect friendly gadgets anymore, which is great because I've killed many drones that way. And she's also going to detect Echo's armband when he's using the yokai drone. And again, another quality of life change is cluster charges are going to be predictable. They're not going to be wildly random. They're not going to go outside 30 meters, pop back up, and then go kill your teammate. They are going to be predictable paths, which might actually open it up to being used a little bit more, at least competitively, in that you will know exactly where each charge will go because it will do the same thing each and every time, which is great. Another minor change of crosshair markers on Blackbeard's shield, not really a huge thing. Twitch drones, all drones can aim upward more easily, which is a great thing. Drones, you should be able to hop up a little bit higher, maybe a little bit new drone climbing spots, hopefully. And Twitch drones are going to be able to, shoot some cameras. I mean, a quality of life change. The next thing, which is a little bit terrifying, is that glass blood splatters going to be collector displayed. That's not really a huge deal, but what's important is that they no longer display dead bodies, so it's going to be even easier now for Glaz to come into a site, kill a guy, and have no real concerns. You're never going to be sitting there shooting a body that's already dead, where you've shot someone or your teammate shot one and just their leg sticking out. You're not going to be shooting a leg 4 times only to realize it's a dead body. So another buff to Glaz there. And last but not least is that the sledgehammer, it works. So that means on floors, which is discussed a little bit down in the bug fixes, but there's simply way too many bug fixes to talk about, and I mean that seriously. There's way too many to talk about. But the sledgehammer now is going to be more consistent. You're going to be able to open up ceilings with it again, like you used to be able to do. So one hit on the ceiling, it's going to be opening that up. So we're probably going to see potentially Sludge picked in place of Buck now with his easier to control guns and having the SMG-11. So he's going to be able to easily open up the floors now, which is going to be pretty great. Also, windows and everything else. If you've ever been a sledge that's swinging back and forth and slamming into windowsills, congratulations. No longer an issue. So, anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was a little bit more concise. I'm probably going to cut it down a little bit as well. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this Operation Blood Orchid patch highlights video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys have a great day. And I'll make sure I'll be also making some videos going in talks about Ying, Legion, and Ella once they come out, and be doing some discussion talks on it. I'll probably a little bit of theory crafting, talking about how they're going to be used in comp, probably seeing how they're going to be used in Pro League and other such things. I expect that there's going to be a lot of things that people might not necessarily expect, a lot of ways that these new operators are going to get used that might not be in the general ideas of people. Like, I mean, just as like a bit of a preview, I really think Ella is probably not going to be played as a roamer, at least in competition. She's going to be really effective on site because her her little trap gadget will interrupt a bomb plant, and it goes off on proximity. So when you whip that little sticky thing, when you throw that over someone who's planting, it's going to go off and interrupt the plant. So when you have her plus smoke, you're going to be able to delay a plant for an extremely long period of time. So that's going to be very interesting to see how she pans out into the meta, and we're definitely going to have a lot of discussion talks on that. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.